Hey guys, Marmalade here. Welcome to Marmalade Outdoors. And this is a very exciting video for me. I have a new tent. We'll find out if it actually works for me or not, but if you know the progression so far, I've been going lighter and smaller. So I first started with, I have a Z-Packs triplex tent. It weighs about 25.5 ounces with the bag. And I've had it for 3 years, love it. It's a big, so it's more tent than I need. Although it's ultralight, it's physically a little bigger than I need. Also, it takes a bigger camp spot. So sometimes, like when I went through the Sierras, it was very hard to find a spot. So I'm happy with it. If I'm going to use it and if I'm stuck with it, I'll keep it. But I've been looking and searching for something lighter and smaller that I'm comfortable in. If you guys saw the progression, I started with the tarp from Z-Packs and liked some things about it, didn't like some things. I've owned the Altiplex a few years back, and it had enough room head to foot, but the walls from the head to foot were so steep that I was touching it, and the condensation was getting me wet, and I just was pretty claustrophobic in it. Then recently I tried the Plex Solo, a friend lent me, and it was the same exact thing. I could fit in it, but it was very uncomfortable and cramped. So I did a lot of research, been waiting for this particular tent to come off. They were waiting for another shipment of the tents to be made, and I got one. And I want to give Durston, Dan, if you watch this, I want to give him props right away. It's so hard to find good customer service and find some company that's reactive and proactive towards you. And I ordered this tent when it became available, and they're in Canada, and I'm in Southern California, so I'm not super far, but they said 10 days. I emailed them some questions because I would love to get this quicker if I could, to get on a trip that I'm doing this weekend. But if not, no biggie. And he emailed me right away, and we had some great conversations. So Dan, if you watch this, thank you so much. If you guys want a company that actually responds to you and appreciates your business, it's a small family business, definitely go to their site, durston.com. So what is the tent? You probably know from the title in the video, but I'm hoping this fits me because I'm a tall guy. I've had the problem with the one-person tents, but all the research I've done, this has more bells and whistles than any even 2- and 3-man tent I've seen, but it's all built into one, and I may actually fit in it. But it is the Durston X-Mid Pro 1. So I'm not going to talk a whole bunch more, but I wanted to set up the tent and actually show you the specs. But we're going to unbox this. Everybody likes unboxing. I'm going to see what's inside of this. And what everybody loves when you see an opening for a DCF tent is somebody using a razor blade on these boxes, but I'll be very careful. Let me do this real quick. I'll be very careful. It's always exciting to see somebody unwrap stuff, right? All right, let's see what comes in it. So there it is, right there. Oh, you get even a sticker. I might put that in my car. So thank you, Dan, for that. So let's get this out of the bag here. I don't know if it's taped or... There we go. Down here, blow away. There it is, the X-Mid Pro 1. And man, it's light. So let's go over a couple really quick specs. It is 1 pound, 16 ounces. I think it's a couple, 1 or 2 ounces over with the bag, but it's a 1 pound tent. And it packs up to a 12-inch by 4-inch bag here, so that's really great. Yeah, it's amazing. I want to show you the difference, and real quick before we set it up and all that, I did some measuring and weighing of everything, and I want to show you the difference. This is my Z-Packs triplex tent I've had for 3 years. Love this thing. Look at the physical size. I don't know if you can appreciate that or not. It's very big. It's probably, maybe it doesn't show it all the way, but it's probably about half the size of this. Maybe a little over half the size of this. So as I've told you, it's lighter, but also physical space. I can go to a smaller pack now. I'm planning on going from a 60 liter to a 40. So this will help in that. I want to show you some other things. I'm saving space and weight. If you look at the ground sheets, this is my triplex ground sheet. And it's like, I forget, I'll put the ounces down below here on the screen. But you can see the physical size of that. Much smaller, about half again. So lighter and about half the weight and smaller. And then lastly is my stakes. I had to carry a lot more stakes for my triplex. I'm carrying, this tent it has extra places for stakes, but this can be staked out with 6 stakes. And when I watch the videos, the 6 stakes make sense. You can stake out more, like I said, if you have a storm or very windy conditions, which if I know I'm going somewhere like that, I can bring more stakes. But I'm stoked about just carrying 6 of the larger of the 2 size groundhogs. That's all I'm gonna bring for the 4 corners and the 2 vestibules. But yeah, the physical size again, and about half the weight. All right, so when I measured all the pieces and parts individually and put it together, my old setup weighed 34.2 ounces, which is pretty light for a 3-person tent, extra stakes really, and also a larger ground sheet than what I'm going to use now. The ground sheets both are DCF, so they're very light. Now I've gone to this new system, and believe it or not, it is 21.7 ounces. That's with the bags. I have a little rubber band around this. This is with the bag for my stakes. So yeah, 21.7. I'm looking at my notes, but 21.7 ounces. So that's a huge saving. It's about 12.5, 13 ounce saving. So practically a pound I'm saving just on the tent. Not to mention I'm saving about half the space in all 3 of these items. So I'm really stoked about this. Okay, it's time to set it up, but guess what? I'm in this park and the grass is like this tall, and I want to show you how it's staked out in the bottom of the tent. So we're not going to do it here. So come along with me, and to save time, I'm going to transport you instantly. And just like that, we're in a different park with better grass. So let's set this baby up. All right, as promised, I'm going to set this baby up. I just want to say a couple things. I normally would set up, I have an Altaplex DCF ground sheet that I'll use when I'm out on trail. I have it, I showed you in the video, but I just don't want to set it up for the interest of time. But it's within 2 inches of the length and the width of the bathtub of this tent, which I'll show you when I go through the specs. But yeah, so I'm just going to do the 6 stakes. Also I just noticed some extra guy line in case you want to maybe create some more guy line tie outs on your tent for like storm mode. So that's really nice to have. Thank you. Lastly, before I set this up, this is a fly first tent, which means it's a 1-piece tent, of course. So when you set it up, there's no mesh to put in before you put the rain fly over all that, because if you do that when it's storming or wet or rainy, you're going to get water inside your tent before you can get the rain fly up. So what's nice is this is a 1-piece tent, so when you set it up, you can even stick your pack in there if it's starting to storm, and everything will stay dry while you're setting up the tent. And it's a very easy tent. We're going to show you how to do this here, but you just stake out the 4 corners and make a perfect rectangle first, and then we slide the 2 poles in on the two ends, and you just go them till they're taut, and then you're done. All right, there it is, my first pitch. Not the best, but I'll get better at it. I wanted to do a 360 on it, show you everything. It's a beautiful tent, and it's a spruce green, which I really love. That's the color I always get with Z-Pack, so I'm glad they have it here. Lots of extra tie-outs like here and up on the corners if you want to tie this out for higher winds or weather. See another one down here, one up here. So lots of places to tie it out. I think it's 12 overall. All right, so let's go over the outside and some of the features and specs, and then we'll go on the inside. The main material of this tent is 0.55 ounce per square yard Dyneema composite fabric. It's in spruce green, like I said, so DCF. When we get to the inside, the bathtub is 15D or denier sil nylon and gray. It's the floor of the bathtub, whatever you want to call it. Number 3 AquaGuard water resistant zippers for the fly, which is these here. And then we'll show you when we get inside, there's a number 3 zippers for the inner tent part, which is the mesh. One of the things that really intrigued me about this tent was the outer dimensions of the tent. The outer fly dimension is 63 inches by 98. So just a much smaller area. You can see, like in my Z-Pack's tent, when you see here, the lines were much longer. So I not only had a 3-person tent, but then when the lines were out a couple feet or more, or maybe a foot, foot and a half, it just took a gigantic space. So this can fit in much smaller spaces. So definitely a bonus when it comes to getting better campsites and more of them. So a couple things that are very unusual, especially for a 1-person tent, is it has 2 doors. So that you can see the zipper there and another door, and they're opposing on either end. So sometimes you get in some tight spots where you can't really get out of one side. It's okay, you can set this up against some bushes, let's say, and still get out the other side. The other thing that's really unusual about a single wall tent is that there's a dual adjustable peak vents, which minimizes condensation. So you can see there, you can easily put it up or take it down. Let's see the other one over here. Somebody knows which end you're sleeping on. But that really helps because, you know, by nature, DCF single wall tents do have condensation from your body heat and the cold outside. As I said, they have 2 doors, which means 2 zippers. They're very easy to operate. You can do it with one hand. The zipper helps you with draft, also to create rigidity within the tent and keep it firm on the outside. One of the biggest things I like about this tent, besides these zippers, is that when you roll up these vestibules, instead of toggles, which I really disliked on my Z-Packs tent, magnets. Listen to that. It's obviously easy to attach and easy to take off when you're getting out of the tent in the morning. One of the things that's very different than a Z-Packs tent that I've had in the past is this tent is designed with geometry. You have a pole, instead of my tent has a pole on each side, so the walls go straight down. The problem is when your head and your feet are there, even though there's lots of room lengthwise, the angle's so steep, it hits my feet and my head because I'm tall. So on this one, you have a pole that's down this way on one end. So what happens is the walls are very steep upright. So even though I have virtually the same room as some of those single wall Z-Packs tents I had, this goes almost straight up. So I have much more usable living space inside. Same on that side. So really think there's a lot of thought put into this. I love everything about this tent. I haven't even used it yet. The only thing that will change is whether I can fit in, I'm comfortable and have enough room. As you can see, it's really windy here today, so the bathtub's kind of flying around. But I want to show you too, one of the other great selling points that you don't have in a Z-Packs tent, and why I really appreciate that, is because the poles are on the side. If you lean your pack or things or any kind of gear against the pole there, you don't block the door. And that used to frustrate me. And some people that are smaller can get in and out of the Z-Packs no problem, but for me it was always hard because I'm a big guy. The rainbow door is 36 inches high. I just had to always crawl out of the tent to get out of there. So you can not only lean your pack there, let me show you. Just like that. So what I'm planning on doing, I normally with my 3-person tent, I have everything inside with me because I have so much room, but I plan on only having in my tent what I need for the night, and then everything else is going to go out there, even my food bag, things like that. Of course, this will come down and be covered, and you have 2 vestibules, so you have plenty of room to put stuff in. If you have stuff that's really wet and gross and you need to maybe dry out the next day, you could put it on the opposing vestibule just to dry out, or at least deal with it later so it's not getting everything wet. Yeah, very good selling point. All right, guys, I'm sorry if the sound changed. For some reason, my wireless mic with the noise canceling is not working right now, or maybe it's not charged up, so you're gonna have to kind of hear me through the wind. And I got a plane flying over. But one of the other things with the 2 doors is very easy to use, mostly one-hand zippers. Another thing I disliked about my Z-Packs one was when you do the rainbow mesh, it zips on the top, so it all falls down, and a lot of times it's in the dirt, and that's why a lot of zippers fail, because they end up, this stuff's in the dirt, you get all the dirt in the tines, and then they, you know, when you try to zip it, it breaks it. So I like that even when it's unzipped, it's just hanging there, not in the dirt. And then you roll this up. I started to show you, but the camera wasn't angled right, so I'm gonna show you again. What's great about this is when you want to roll this up and you have no bug issues, this just has like a string, but it's got friction, so and it's stretchy, so when you put it on, you pull it tight. And why that is, it's nice and light, but I personally hate toggles. Sometimes I have a hard time getting them off in the morning. So yeah, this way it's just tight like that, and when you want to undo it, you just literally put your finger in there. I saw Dan do it in a video, so that's as easy as that. All right, so my very first time going in here, and I'm going to take off my sandals. And as I said, I love everything about this tent. My main issue will be whether I fit in or not. So we will see. Take off my sandals. I want to track anything in. And we'll show you the interior in a minute. I just want to lay here for a minute, see what it feels like. Wow. Yeah, the initial, I said I'm 6'3" or 75 inches. On this side, there's a little bit of angle, so. Yeah, but I can actually sit up. Let's go like this. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The bathtub is at an angle, so it's always left, upper left to back right. So no matter which way you set it up, it's always the same. That matters when you're picking out a campsite, you know, and you have a big area and you want to kind of pick a flat area, or maybe your head's a little higher than the foot. I will always set up the tent where the bathtub is in a nice flat or slightly sloped area. I don't care how the tent's angled in generally unless it's really windy. But I'm gonna always set it up so that the bathtub itself, where I'm lying, is the optimum spot. But one thing I can do with that is I will be putting my ground sheet down first and basically picking the angle spot first. That way when I set up my tent, I can literally just line up my tent, the bathtub to the ground sheet, and then set up the tent. So that's my plan on doing this. We'll see how that works, but yeah, let's show you the inside too. So as you can see, there's a lot of room here. The bathtub, as I said before, is made out of 15 denier steel nylon. Dan feels it's a little more abrasive resistant over time, and also a little bit less slippery than DCF. So a lot of times when you get a new DCF tent and you set your air mattress down, you slide. If you have a slope, you end up at the bottom of the tent all the time. So a little bit less slide, you know, it's just slide resistant. I just found out something. There's no instructions with this tent, so I'm learning as I go. I'm learning how to tweak and adjust it. Just like my Z-Packs, it takes a while, but I noticed that the bathtub floor was blowing all over. Not noticing that on the sides where the poles go, there's like a tie out there. I know it's really hard to see, but that pulls this out, and same on that pole over there. So now it's much better. Obviously, when you get your gear in there too, then the bathtub's not gonna move around, but try not to get my shadow in there. So now that's in place and pulling everything out, so it's much more usable space now. All right, guys, so the bathtub size is 90 inches long. I told you I'm 6'3", which is 75 inches long, so technically I have 15 more inches and 32 inches wide. I do use a wide and standard length air mattress. My air mattress is 25 inches wide at the kind of upper torso area, but it gets narrow as you go down below. One of the things I really like, let me show you. I'm going to flip this camera around. Well, what I like too is that this is not, I told you, it's kind of an odd shape. It's kind of pointy at the top there on the left. It peeks out on the left there. So like if my head's here, I'm going to have room in this area for the things I need, like my pee bag and my headlamp and maybe a jacket or a beanie, things like that, or gloves, things I need. Everything else I've decided I'm going to put outside in my pack on the outside, but that'll give me plenty of room. You know, I'm going to lay down and show you kind of, remember, you know, I'm 75 inches long, but of course when you sleep like this. You're in a kind of fetal position like this. So when you look, sorry about the bumpiness. When you look down there, I have plenty of room, you know. Actually in the video here, it doesn't look like I have a lot of room, but I have plenty of room. What's making it feel bigger is essentially these walls that go almost straight up. They're not quite straight up, but and here up to here. I have very long arms and I can't touch. I'm about 6 inches from the top. So I don't know if you can see that very well, but the vent is there. Another one over there in that corner. But if you do get condensation, what I like is, you know, on all these tents, the DCF, it'll just roll down the inside, and it's got this mesh gutter. So it should just, you have this staked out properly, it'll just roll right down this wall and right out there. It's got strings that I just noticed, guy lines that help pull the corner to that corner stake there. And one more thing I almost forgot was these great pockets right here. So let me see if I can do this with two hands, but right here, course, there's one on both sides. Yeah, this is great. Like I said, you know, I want to have only what I need, but if you're ever backpacked, especially out in the remote wilderness, it's very dark, very hard to find this stuff in the middle of the night that you need. If you need to go to the bathroom or something, you need your headlamp, at least you'll know exactly where everything is. That also saves you space, not having it packed around you while you're sleeping. One of my favorite things is I've kind of observed that unlike a lot of other one-person tents that I've tried, they're always one door, and so you have a mesh side here. You always have to sleep against the mesh because you have a steep wall normally of DCF so close to you. That's what's happened to me, is that I end up getting the transfer of the wetness and the and condensation on me, and I get soaked, and also my feet and my head because of the steep angles. But you not only don't have the steep angles here, but what I like about this is when you have even both your doors open or closed, they're way away from you. Your body's only touching the mesh, which doesn't ever have condensation. So I like that. Even if you happen to be sliding over or you roll over in the middle of the night and you're kind of touching this, what I really like, and it's never really noticed or mentioned, is I like that my body's touching and my quilt's touching this and not the DCF that's usually right on the edge of you. So to me, that's a huge point, and maybe it sounds kind of obvious, but it means a lot to me because being a bigger guy, I've dealt with nothing but having condensation transfer onto me and my beanie and the footbed of my quilt, and then it's like doing a yard sale later to dry everything. So I just think there's just a lot of great thought put into this. All right, guys, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed that. Sorry it's a little bit long. There's just so much to process and see and to tell you, and there's so many specs and angles and things like that. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a little bit problematic. My speaker stopped working, so I hope it sounds okay. There's a lot of outer noise around me. I'm in a neighborhood, but yeah, first impressions, I'm very impressed with it. I feel my main thing is whether I'm going to fit in it. Everything else I love. I mean, it's like practically half the size of my triplex, and I like everything about it. It's got lots of things I didn't have on my triplex. It's just going to be whether I fit in it or not. So I hope you enjoyed that. Do you guys have this tent? If you do, how's your experience been so far with it? You know, remember, these are to maybe get certain people interested in maybe a certain tent they're looking for. But also, you know, if you share things in the comments, then I learn from it and other people learn from it. I've yet to use it. By the way, the next day or two, I'm getting out on the PCT for 3 days. So I get to spend 2 nights in it, and I have some other stuff planned after that too. But I was really lucky. The last thing I'll say is, at the beginning of this video, I said they have great customer service. Well, I was told it would take 10 days, but I happen to be in California, Southern California, but it came from Canada, and I got it in 4 days. So I assumed that I wasn't going to be able to use it on this particular trip coming up, but I am. So I'm stoked about that. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, please consider subscribing. Like the video, it really helps with algorithms, and hit the notification bell if you want to see more of this. I am going to videotape on my hike, so look for that too, and I'll try to kind of feature it in the video a little bit and kind of give you my verbal thoughts about it as I'm using it. I can tell that I need to learn how to set it up a little bit better, and it's also very windy, so don't criticize me too much for the setup, but I really was impressed with it. Every other one-person tent I've tried, I've been very cramped and almost claustrophobic. The 2 doors also being, if you open it, makes you feel like it's much more open and not like a one-person tent. Thanks for watching. We'll see you down the trail.